I'm going to give it to you in English. LMSKNA. Okay? Now, if I give you, the lamed it's a prefix. We have lamed, which generally means on, toward, or at. But if I give you the letters MSKN with no vowel sound, pronounce that. MSKN. Just pronounce it without vowels. Miskin. That's the only thing I've ever heard, unless someone was around my work or knows Aramaic a bit. So that was a big problem, because when stuff was taken, and not everybody agrees on this, but when stuff was taken from ancient Aramaic into Greek, they made a lot of phonetic errors, because, intriguingly, miskin means poor, as in lacking. Okay? But I can take these same consonants and I can put a couple of phonic dots here, and it changes the sound from miskin to maskin. So let's look at the difference between poor. Okay? So miskin is poor. That means, let's look at it this way. Let's say that you have all the money, and all the money you have. You ever seen the movie The Terminal? I don't want to go into it. You know, Tom Hanks, and it's like his country goes into a civil war, and he ends up stuck at LaGuardia Airport in the International Transit Lounge. It was based on a true story. A guy lived there for 2.5 years. He couldn't leave the transit lounge because his country went down. Although they made a comedy out of the movie, and it's phenomenal. But let's just say you came, you just flew to America. You don't speak any English. You only have $3,000 in your wallet. You have one suitcase and nothing else. You have no job, you have no family, nothing, and you can't go home because of civil war. Interesting. And then let's just say you're standing in the street corner in New York City, and someone comes and steals your suitcase. You're looking at, your wallet is open, you're looking at your $3,000, counting it, and somebody swipes it and runs. So you're standing here in New York. You're what? What did you just say? You're poor. Now let's look at it in a different way. That's miskin. Now here's maskin, intriguingly. Let's say you've got $3,000 in your wallet, and you consciously, by choice, take that money out and you put it in your front pocket. The wallet is now what? It's empty. You're not poor as in lacking. It's empty as in chosen openness. See the difference? That's the difference from miskin to maskin. Now, that does not remove maskin from it. That doesn't remove, we're still on the, So that looks like it's going to go that way? No. So anyway, that's the difference between, there's got to be something I can do to get back to the other page. This is going to drive me, I'm really glad I got this. No, I'm just kidding. So there's a big difference there. Not lacking as poor as in lacking, but empty as in open. And intriguingly, though, that word empty also means home or sanctuary. Wherever you go, there you are. When two or more are gathered in my name, it's not the structure that makes the church, it's the awareness, it's the energy, the essence. If you look at, like, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean poor, but it shifts the focal point a bit, okay? So you look at people so blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. To me, that sounds like a brownie point. Blessed are the poor, and we'll get back to spirit. But it's funny, because in Luke it says, blessed are the poor. It doesn't say in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. Huh. Okay. Think about that for a second. So let's look at the word spirit for a second. Spirit it's ruha in Aramaic, ruach in Hebrew, ruch in Arabic. Okay? This here, what I'm about to say, is probably the most significant shift that you can have with the Jesus teachings from exoteric theological promises, from a disembodied God-man, into becoming something that lives in your own heart, okay? So pay attention. This is the word spirit. What does spirit mean in Latin? Spiritus, breath. Think about that for a second. So rucha in Aramaic means breath also. Spiritus in Latin means breath, although we forgot that. People think spiritual is like, I don't know. I don't know what it means. Flap my arms around. Oh, are you spiritual? And actually I have friends that say, oh, we should remove spirit and don't say spiritual. And I'm like, okay, so just because we don't know what it means, we're just going to stop saying it? I don't understand that part. But everything is spiritual. It's like, okay, so what does spirit actually mean? In Aramaic, that's an elemental force that I can sense, I can feel and or sense its effects, but I don't know what it is or where it comes from. So let's look at this for a second. What is this that I feel on my arm? So in ancient Aramaic, that's not breath I feel on my arm. It's hot air. And I want you to tell you something here, because breath is feminine. What does that mean? It's not something physical. Breath, rucha in Aramaic, meaning it's not the air that is moving through my lungs, but rather my feminine perception of its movement or frequency. It's the same as the word wind. The wind comes and goes. You don't know where it's going, but you hear its voice. It's the exact same word, rucha. The wind, the air moving is not the wind. That's not rucha. It's actually your perception of its movement that is rucha. The beating of your heart. Magnetism. It's not the magnetism itself that is rucha/spirit. It's your perception of its frequency, oscillation, movement. So what does it mean to be spiritual? If that sound really annoys you, focus in on it. It means to pay attention. It means to walk into a room curious and open, empty. To walk in empty, tune into whatever's going on without crystallizing into thought. And that's another whole thing entirely. Everybody lionizes thought in the modern culture. You don't become what you think about, you never have. Because every thought you've ever had is a delusion of a separate mind that does not exist in the first place. There's no creative aspect of thought. Thought is the effect of feeling, which is the sensation of pure frequency. You walk in a room or someone says something, and before a thought forms, and then all of a sudden there's a thought. The thought is the effect of the feeling. The feeling, your feeling, not to be confused with emotion. That's something different, happy, sad. Your feeling is the seat of all creative power, even if you never can get to the place of enunciating that into a thought. But because thought is masculine, we've lionized it. And feeling, which is feminine, we've shoved it down because we can't hold it in our hand. His teachings are 100% completely feminine. People say, what about when he went into the temple and he got pissed off? I'm like, well, first of all, where does it say he got pissed off? Well, it's obvious he's knocking stuff over. What does it actually say? Well, he knocked everything, and I'm like, no, what exactly does it say? It says he knocked over the tables, which in Aramaic is what you send out into the world. How do you present yourself to the world? And the seat, which is what do you really rest your beliefs upon, regardless of how you send your words out into the world. So he knocked over the presentation that you have, all the gibberish. Not that it's all gibberish. And he also knocked off that place where you rest in your BS, your belief systems. In the temple. Where's the temple? No, he literally went into the actual temple. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And yeah, there's aspects of that maybe too, just like rent and twain from top to bottom, Matthew 27:51. So I'm just going to say blessed are with the two wehun. Blessed are those who are empty in breath, magnetism, the sensation. And think about those moments when your heart is most wide open and you feel closest to God. There's one thing that's happening very, very little in that moment. What's that? Thought. Moments of ecstasy. You're not going, did I pay the gas bill? No, I don't think you are. You're not thinking in those moments. The birth of a child, not much. And even if you are thinking, they're not very well enunciated. If you understand what I'm saying. The box just kind of goes, ooh, your thoughts. Feel that one out. For theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Well, let's look at kingdom for a sec. The rest of the Beatitudes are going to fly. It's really the base is the root of this first one. You have to understand the first to get the second. You have to understand the first and the second to get the third. So, kingdom of heaven. So, look at just kingdom. The words malkuta in Aramaic, basileia in Greek, both are feminine words. So people say, well, then how come? And people say, oh, then it's a queendom. And I'm like, wrong. Queendom is also masculine. Why? Because it's physical. Yes. So if you say, like I love Neil Douglas Klotz. He's one of my teachers. But he says queendom, and that's nice, but it's still masculine. You're looking at a queen. So malku, just malku without the T on it, the tall, but the malku is like a boundary or a line in the sand. Like, this is my physical property line. I own this ranch. Not that I'm implying there's ranches in Texas. I own this ranch. And then when I go past that point, I'm outside of my kingdom. That's malku. Malkuta is how you feel about it. What does that mean? I can be comfortable going into... Now, I don't want to go there. Somebody, didn't you mention Police Academy today? I was thinking of the Blue Oyster Bar, but I'm not going to go into that analogy today. We'll just keep that one over there. Let's say you go into an establishment that you don't feel comfortable in. You're outside of your kingdom. It's that simple. And like when you're in your kingdom, you feel at home. You're in your domain. You can be open. You can be expressive and it's not about the physical boundary. It's known as a proxemic zone in psychiatry and in psychology. That's like, I'm from New Jersey, and people deliver sarcasm with a smile. And they'll just tear you apart and gut you like a fish, a la the Grinch, and leave your innards on the floor and say, oh, come on, I was just kidding. You saw me smiling. Everybody's been around that, huh? So sarcasm comes from the Latin root sarx. That means to cut, rip, or tear flesh. But the other thing about up north, those Yankees, is there's no proxemic zones. So I have so many friends that'll talk and they'll be like right here. And then I'll be like, yeah, okay, well, I've been all right. Yeah, I haven't seen you in a while. And all of a sudden I'm leaning back at like a 45-degree angle like a cartoon character, and they're leaning on top of me like something out of like Bugs Bunny or something. That point where they're just a little too close, I don't need to smell the garlic from last night, that's an invasion of your kingdom. That's actually what Helbane means in the Lord's Prayer. That's what trespass means. You came a little too, not even just physical proximity, it's closer than I feel okay with. That's what a trespass is. Doesn't necessarily mean they ran into your yard. Helbane. Interesting. So when we're looking at this kingdom idea, it's really that state of being where you basically connected. And what I want to say is with the Shemaya. So the root of Shemaya is Shem. That's the word name. But name in Aramaic doesn't mean, I said this to Michelle on the way over, it doesn't mean if I say Michael Jackson, I don't know of anybody that's just thinking Michaeljackson. If I say Michael Jackson, what's going on for you? You're thinking the music, that innocent little boy in the beginning, that we basically, for me, I see this beautiful little boy that we chewed up and like gnawed through and spit back out on the ground so we could find somebody else to do it with. That's kind of what I see. And I see amazing music, that moonwalk, which I remember when it happened at the Motown Awards. I was watching it live. I was like, 10 years old. And I'm going, now it's no big deal. Back then it's like, my brain couldn't handle it, And all he's doing is just kind of moving backward on the stage. But, so it's all that I am. That's what Shem means. When you hear pray in my name, John 15:16, if you say in the name of the Lord Jesus, you commit blasphemy. And there's several levels on that. One, it's not his name. That's Jesus, which comes from the Greek, and it means Hail Zeus. Just because people are ignorant of it, it's not going to change its truth. Okay? In Aramaic, it's Yeshua, and people say Yahweh saves, which is not exactly true. Yah doesn't mean necessarily Yahweh in a religious God sense. It means a divine presence, a divine awareness. And Shua in Aramaic means to cleanse, sweep, or restore something to its original state. But, as miraculous as that sounds about his name, it was as common as Yohanan, John. Like if you go into a crowd now and you go, John, there's 300 people, 30 guys go, what? It was like that with Jesus back then. It was very common. Nobody wants to talk about that. Mariam was another. Mary was very common because Herod the Great's wife was named Mariam. But, so we've got kingdom of heaven, Shem Aya. Do you know why heaven was located in the sky? We're going to take a break in a second, and then we're going to, just like a quick one, and then we'll start flying through the other Beatitudes. Why do you think heaven's in the sky? Why do people... It's even more simple than all that, but yes, because it's the same word. Heaven and sky is the same word in Aramaic. Shemaiah. It's my 12-year-old daughter's name, Shemaiah. So here's an interesting thing. He said, if heaven was in the sky, the birds would precede you. If heaven or the kingdom of God is in the water, the fishes would precede you. No, it's where? See, now that's what we think it says within, but that word doesn't actually mean within as in your guts. It means threaded through your midst. Almost like I am, let's say I'm weaving a blanket and I have some way of weaving one different color through, but it doesn't weave just through the blanket. It's at every point of its physical existence, woven. And there's a word in the Coptic that they say in the Gospel of Thomas that the kingdom is rolled up in your presence. And it's not exactly it either. A great book called Meeting Jesus Again for the First Time. And it blew my brains out of the side of my head when I read it 20, 25 years ago, because it was exactly what I thought as a kid. Everybody's telling me God's in heaven, but somehow God is everywhere present. So, Shemaiah. What's at the end of the word heaven or sky? Aya. Aya is a sound in Aramaic that means something that has no beginning and no ending. Yeah. So what better representation if we're trying to get that kind of state of being away than pointing up at the sky? Now here's another one to fry your sockets. Is the sky limitless? According to science. No. The sky ends. Your brain can't handle that thought. The sky is physical. The manifest universe has a boundary. It has to because it's manifest, obvious, it's physical. Everything Yeshua was talking about, everything has no boundary because it doesn't exist in this world. It's in it, but not of it. Your brain can't handle that. You know, Cynthia Bourgeot, Episcopalian priest, she said Yeshua's parables weren't supposed to make sense. They were meant to fry your sockets, to make your brain kind of implode on itself like a Zen koan, the sound of one hand clapping. People can go like that, and I'm like, well, you're not too good at it with one hand that way, but I can spend my whole life trying to figure out the sound of one hand clapping in the physical world, and I'm just going to basically look like an idiot. That's it. You getting what I'm saying? Everything he said was feminine, yes.
So is it like just kind of the concept of like non-duality, you know?
Non-duality is masculine. It's physical. It's another concept because the Tao that can be named or recognized is not the eternal Tao. Your brain can't touch it. There's no way. There's no explanation or question that it would fit into.